This is a dramatic reading of Vacancy, written by Kojiseito. Chase may not have had his spy gear, but he was still as stealthy as ever. He secretly followed the Dalmatian through the town, curious to find out who he had been meeting with over the past week. To him, Marshall had always seemed to be on cloud nine after meeting this mystery pup, always daydreaming during meals, staying out longer during his daily walks, and coming back with a big, goofy smile on his face. If Chase didn't know any better, he would say Marshall was in love. He honestly didn't know why he cared so much about who Marshall was meeting and what he was doing, especially after shooting him down a month ago. Marshall had finally worked up the nerves to confess his feeling to the shepherd. He poured his heart out, only to be rejected in a harsh manner. Naturally, there was a long period of hurt and sadness for the Dally afterward. He and Chase were no longer as close as they used to be, and that fact was noticeable to everyone. The others had no idea what had transpired to cause a rift between the two, but figured it was best not to meddle. Chase and Sky had started dating sometime after Marshall's rejection. The light in the Dally's eyes had completely disappeared. He rarely said a word to anyone, and spent most of his time in his pup house or taking walks alone. Even during missions, he had stopped saying his catchphrases and seldom spoke while performing his tasks, only giving a small nod here and there to signify he understood. On missions where he had to pair up with Chase, he wouldn't say a word to him. Ryder, Zuma, Rocky, Sky, and Rebel wondered about the drastic change in Marshall's behavior. They tried to pry answers from the fire pup, but every time they questioned him, the conversation always ended with him telling them that he didn't want to talk about it, and that would be the end of it. In fact, the only phrases the others would ever hear Marshall say is, "I'm just not hungry, I'm just tired, I'm just going for a walk, and I don't want to talk about it." But all that had changed now. It seemed as if Marshall was back to his old self again. Even his clumsiness had returned. Although Ryder and the others were happy about this, Chase just couldn't help feeling a certain way about it. Who on earth could be making Marshall this happy? Chase pressed his back against the brick wall, trying to remain out of sight. He wouldn't dare label himself as jealous. He kept using curiosity as an excuse. Still, deep in the back of his mind, he found himself questioning why he was doing this. Chase hid behind the corner of a building as he watched Marshall cross the street while singing. Looking in the direction of where Marshall was headed, he was able to see that Dally was headed to a fast food restaurant. Marshall approached the restaurant and pulled his way through the entrance doors, walking his way to the patio dining area. Since Marshall was going to the patio, there was no reason for Chase to go through the inside of the restaurant. He could simply watch him from behind the shrubbery. Chase quickly crossed the street, following after Marshall. He walked to the side of the restaurant and crawled on his belly under a row of neatly trimmed bushes just below a slightly raised patio. He stuck his head up just enough to see through the patio guardrails. He watched as Marshall walked up to a table for two. Marshall stopped in front of the table for two and looked up to see an opened menu standing atop the table. "Hi, Joey," Marshall said as he smiled, wagging his tail happily. A pair of white paws closed the menu and set it down on the table flat. Behind it was a Dalmatian pup with amber eyes. He had a tuft of fur on top of his head that was combed forward in a messy yet stylish way. Around his neck was a small black speaker box attached to a red collar with a flat silver shield-shaped tag which had a red cross imprinted into it. His ears, while being raised, slightly curved down at the tip. The fur covering the left ear was completely black, while the opposite ear was white with a few small black spots. "Hey Marsh, you made it," he answered back. Chase stared at the amber-eyed Dalmatian. "Joey?" he thought to himself. Marshall did say that he always liked that name when we named all those turtles. Looking at Marshall's Dalmatian friend, Chase could actually see how he would be considered eye candy. He seemed to just have this certain charm to him. "Yeah, we had to do a little maintenance on our vehicles at the lookout," Marshall said while taking his seat across from Joey. Joey chuckled. "Well, that kind of safety is important. My partner and I have to go through the same routine. The last thing you'd want is to be rushing on your way to save someone and then end up catching a flat or blowing your motor." "Yeah, that's true," Marshall said, looking down. "So, what's it like, being an EMT pup for the hospital and all that?" I'd say it's about the same as being an EMT pup for the Paw Patrol, laughed Joey. Though I gotta say, sometimes it can get a little gruesome out there, he said, looking away. You could end up seeing stuff you never really wanted to see. These people's lives depend solely on you and weigh on your shoulders. Any second loss getting to them could be critical. Oh, Marshall replied, starting to look a little uncomfortable. I'm guessing you haven't had that experience in the Paw Patrol yet? Joey said, looking a little sheepish. Hopefully you never have to. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Yeah, I really don't know if I'd be able to handle something like that. That sounds like a lot of pressure, and I'm barely any help when I'm not under pressure, Marshall said, looking down. Joey reached over and placed his paw on top of Marshall's, causing him to blush in surprise. This, in turn, made Chase grit his teeth angrily while he continued to watch. Marshall, I'm sure you'd be able to handle anything that comes your way. From the day we met weeks ago, I could tell you were a strong pup, Joey said. I can always tell at times that you don't have much confidence in yourself. Marshall looked at the ground in guilt and embarrassment at Joey's last statement before Joey continued. You may not see it like I do yet, but as your friend, I have to tell you, you're a great pup. Joey smiled sweetly at the other Dalmatian. This made Marshall lift his head back up to Joey as he started blushing. Joey really thinks I'm great. I've never heard anyone say that about me. I'm not that great, the blushing fire pup replied modestly. I only feel great when I'm around you, he thought to himself. You're right. You're better than great, Joey said, shooting Marshall a wink with a smile. Marshall couldn't take his eyes off him now. Joey was so kind and supportive to him. It seemed as if he tried to encourage Marshall every chance he got. Marshall didn't want to believe that he was falling for someone again. Someone he possibly couldn't have. Joey's smile was so dazzling that it was mesmerizing. You okay, Marsh? Joey asked, tilting his head. Marshall had left this world, and his trance wasn't broken until a blonde woman in waitress attire strolled over carrying an electronic tablet and stylus. Hi, my name's Kathy, she said in a chipper tone. What would you two like to order today? Chase didn't like this one bit. He didn't like this scene, nor how close it seemed the two were. There was nothing he could do, however. His only choices were to sit and watch or stand up and leave. His pup tag suddenly went off. Chase, where are you? Rung out a female voice from the speakers. Chase ducked deeper into the bushes. The dry branches were uncomfortably brushing up against his back. Chase? The voice repeated from the speakers. Hey, Sky, Chase answered in a low, hushed tone. Why are you whispering? She asked, the curiosity clear in her tone. I'm just, in a public place, he answered. Oh, where are you? She questioned. Just in town, at this fast food restaurant, Chase said, peeking back over to the Dalmatians to make sure they hadn't noticed him. Fortunately, the two seemed to be distracted talking with the server. Sky, now's not a good time for me to talk. Oh, okay. Well, don't forget we have our picnic at Big View Trail in a few hours, just the two of us. And they found a great spot to set up and it has the best view, she said happily. Chase groaned within his mind. He had completely forgotten that picnic was today. He couldn't be able to attend the picnic with Sky and keep an eye on Marshall and Joey. Sky began to ramble on about what a great time the two of them would have and how nice the scenery would be. Chase, getting impatient, decided to just speak up. Don't worry, Sky, I won't forget. You know I've been looking forward to this, he said, bearing an uncomfortable expression. Great, see you then, Chase. Sky made kissing noises before ending the call. Chase sighed. He really had been looking forward to this picnic. That is, until his curiosity of Marshall's business got the better of him. He poked his head back out of the bushes. Huh, where'd they go? He said, staring at the table that now had 2 empty seats. His eyes darted all around the patio, but still found no trace of them. Ugh, he huffed in aggravation, and crawled from out of the bushes. Chase searched street corner to street corner, looking for the 2 Dalmatians, but they were still nowhere to be found. Who goes to a restaurant to just sit and then leave? He said to himself, running down the sidewalk, looking back and forth. I should check the beach. After running for blocks and blocks, the beach began to come into Chase's view. In the distance, he was able to see 4 pups playing volleyball. 2 of those pups being on the opposite side of the net. The volleyball was launched high into the air. Not a second later, a female husky leaped up and spiked the ball with great strength. I got it, yelled Rocky. He ran to the drop shadow of the volleyball, only to take a step back when he realized how fast it was traveling. The ball hit the ground with great force, causing sand to displace in the spot that it landed. Oh yeah, point for us, shouted Everest as she danced up to Rubble and high-fived him. Great spike, Everest, said the bulldog as he bumped tushes with her. An upset Rocky looked over to them. Can you guys spike the ball any harder? He asked sarcastically. It's already unfair that you two powerhouses got to team up. At least tone it down a little. Yeah, you guys are making graders in the sand for crying out loud, Zuma co-signed while pointing to the area that sand had been displaced by the ball. Oh, don't be such babies, Rubble laughed. Yeah, we're not hitting the ball that hard, Everest said, rolling her eyes. The four flinched as they heard a whistle blow. Okay, pups, let's remember to have good sportsmanship and be fair, shouted Ryder from the referee high chair. Rubble and Everest, try to be a little more considerate of the other players. You two are pretty strong. Okay. Rubble groaned, looking down. Chase made his way over in the midst of this. Hey, Chase, Everest said, greeting the shepherd. You excited for your picnic? She giggled, causing Chase to blush. How do you know about that? He asked. Everest giggled into her paw. Me and Sky talk about everything, she answered, rolling her eyes. Oh, right. Has anyone seen, Marshall? He asked. The four pups shook their heads. I haven't seen him since breakfast earlier, replied Rubble. Marshall called me from his pup tag, answered Ryder. He told me that he was going to grab his EMT truck to help someone. He didn't say much more than that. Thanks, Ryder, Chase yelled as he bolted towards the lookout. Chase ran and ran, nearing the bridge to the lookout. He heard blaring sirens, and over the bridge came Marshall's EMT truck flying down the road. Marshall was in the driver's seat wearing his EMT gear, while Joey was sitting behind him holding on to his shoulders, both of them bearing serious expressions. As they flew past the shepherd, he only had one question in mind. Where are they headed? That was Chapter 1 of Vacancy, written by Kojiseito. Hope you enjoyed.